Hey guys, this is Jesse here again with another tutorial on the P framework. This is kind of just going to be up to date from the last tutorial I did. A lot has changed since then. We're currently on Snapshot 3, which is version 0.1.2, and it's gotten a lot more stable, I like to think, and just some really cool features that I'd like to show you guys today. So we're just going to be doing our traditional demo of a chat application. I'm going to just make one video this time, hopefully a bit less confusing. Um, so if you aren't familiar with the P framework, I recommend you watch the other two tutorial videos I've made before, but it's basically an upcoming Node.js web framework designed to make real-time web applications. Um, and hopefully you can see really what it can do in this tutorial. So we'll go ahead and start with our controller. So we're going to just use the index controller. Again, to refresh you, the index controller is basically the home page for the application. As you can see here, we're just loading the index view. And how we're doing that is we are looking at we're using the $, which basically mimics the jQuery or the $sign function in the jQuery library. And then we're just calling the P method render, and that takes a look at the index view and puts it inside of body. So yeah, that's good for our index action. We'll just go ahead and look at our index view now. The P framework uses EJS, although a more recent development is you can basically have it use any kind of templating engine you want by just writing a little simple driver for it, and hopefully very soon we'll have support for Jade and the other popular rendering engines that people might want to use. So let's go ahead and just set up our chat interface now. We're going to need a username bar. So let's go ahead and just make a form element. And we're going to use the new way to do forms, which is p:\action. And what p::action does is sends you to an action inside of a controller. It sends the form data to that, serialized as a JSON object. And it just sends that to the first argument of the action, whatever the inputs are in the form. As of this time, there is a known bug that the inputs can't be inside of a div. It's not recursive in finding those inputs, but that should be fixed very soon. So that will kind of hinder our interface a bit today, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and just tell this to go to the index controller. We're going to have a send message action. And we'll go ahead and close all of these tags. Okay, so as I was starting to say, we're going to need a username box. So we'll make an input, and we're just going to say the name is username. And we'll give it a placeholder. And we can do class equals one column, and we'll need another input for their message, and that can be 11 column or 10 columns offset by 1. And for those of you not familiar with Foundation, it's basically a kind of lighter version of Twitter Bootstrap, and we're using its grid system right now. That comes pre-installed with P, which kind of just gets you up and running quickly. So we'll give this one a name of message, and we can also give it a placeholder. Alright, and let's actually make this 9 columns, because we're going to need a submit button. And a small button will give it some button styling. We don't need to make it a small button though, we'll just make it a normal button. And then we don't need to give this one a name. We aren't going to be using any value from it, so let's just set the value to send. And that'll set the text from the button, of course. I apologize for the background noise as well. I live next to a pretty busy street, so lots of cars. I'll try to dim it back when I edit the video. But anyway, so to finish this view off, let's go ahead and just add another row here. And we will make this one also 12 columns. 12. TWEL, yeah, okay. And we can give this an ID of message, or we'll give it something more descriptive, chat log. I cannot type tonight. And you'll see how we use this ID later on. So let's just fire up the P application. And pardon me just for a second, I'm going to turn this on Do Not Disturb so we aren't disturbed while I'm doing this. Okay, so we are currently in the P root, and to start our app we can just run node app. Whoops, I've got a sample application I was working on actually running in the background, so let me quit that. And there we go. Now we can start the server. Okay, so another new addition that I don't think was in the last video is that we have a built-in web server to get you up and running quickly. It uses the Connect web server, which is what the Express framework also uses. It's based on top of Connect. So basically that lets us really quickly just go directly to our site without having to set up Apache or something. And as we can see here, this is looking okay. It could look better in my opinion. So let's try this. Make this 8, and we'll also make this one offset by. We can just refresh the page and see those changes. That doesn't look too bad. If we want to be nitpicky, we can get rid of this and 2 columns. There we go. Kind of looks nice. Okay, and also down here what you can't see is that div. I'll go ahead and just give it some custom styling. That way we can see it on the page. And there we have it. And we can give this some margin on the top. There we go. So what's going to happen is we will type a username like Jesse here, and then we can just type a message, hello world, and we'll be able to press send, and our message is just going to show up in this gray outlined box. But we have to actually wire that up. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to, since we are pointing to the index controller's send message action, we're going to go ahead and just implement that action now. And this is kind of the cool part. This is really easy to do in P. So let's just make a new function, send message, this function, and we're also going to get a data parameter, and that's going to come from the form. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to access the client, so clients array. My goodness, I can't talk. So the clients array is basically an array that is actively updated of every connected client to your application. And it's actually just an array of the client's P instance. When we use P, you can see we're just accessing it from here. That's usually you can access P from ideally anywhere in the P application. And that's kind of just your global, it's always the same, it's a constant, almost. Except it obviously does change quite a bit. But anyway, so when we access .clients, we're getting an array of other instances of P. When we use P, it's actually just our, and by our I mean the current user's instance of P. So they're all separate, but clients, for the final time, gives us access to everyone's. So let's just loop through them with a for each. And Similar to what we did up here, we use the selector. Now we can go down here, and in place of P, we use client dot $, and we're going to pass in the ID chat log. And then we'll call render, and we're going to make a new view called message, and we'll just give it the message data. So it's now going to every client, and on every client's page, it's going to use their independent chat log div, and it's going to render the message view with the sent data on their page. Actually, that would replace the contents every time, so we don't want to do that. Let's do prepend, so it'll put it at the top, and then we're going to just use p.snippet. And p.snippet gets the view, puts it through your rendering engine, does all the stuff that it needs with the data, and just returns the contents. And this .prepend function works identical to jQuery's prepend function. So we'll just be putting the new HTML at the top of the div. So we'll go ahead and make that message view. And we'll give it some styling. Give it a margin. And then we can just make strong. And we use EJS for this. So we want to say message.username. And again, that comes from the input name in our form. When they send the message, it will send username, and that matches the name of the input. So we'll put their name, and we'll say they said, put a break, and now we will actually print the message. So that's message.message. Okay, simple enough. So let's go ahead and restart our P server, and we'll bring the browser back up, refresh the page, and now we can give ourselves a username of Jesse or whatever your name is. We'll just type hello, press enter, and you see it comes in, Jesse said hello. And right now we can actually just spam that. We see a bunch of hellos. But if we copy this URL and open an incognito window so we get a new session, we can see we don't have the chat log because we aren't actually saving the chat log anywhere. But if we set this person's name to Tim, we say, hey Jesse, so talking to myself, but you see instantaneously pops up right here, hey Jesse. And I can of course say my hello back. So yeah, that's a rudimentary chat application. And we can go a bit further with it. In our index view, we can make a script. And because of the way Node, or sorry, not the way Node works, the way P works, actually, you always want to put these scripts at the bottom, because these scripts are it's almost like they're loaded with Ajax. So document.ready doesn't work when you're using jQuery, or does like window.onload or something, because the document has already been loaded for a long time. So simply putting it at underneath whatever element you're wanting to affect, as long as the code is getting ran after that element is on the page, it will work fine. So let's go ahead and give our form an ID. And when they submit the form, so P automatically handles the form submit, but we want to, let's clear out those inputs so they can't just spam stuff. And we might even want to do some validation, like if the username, the value of the username and the length of that is 0. So if they didn't enter anything, and we can do the same thing for the message. If they didn't enter one or more of the inputs, then we don't want to send the message, so we can just call e.preventDefault, and that will prevent the form from submitting. And we could give like an error or something, but we don't want to go that far. So what we can also do after they've submitted the form, so after, and we'll just make sure nothing else happens after that. So down here, if everything goes okay and we actually do submit the form, then we can afterwards set the message. We can set its value to nothing. That way you don't have to backspace every time. And it's always good practice to restart the app. We just changed the view, so you don't actually have to in that case, but we will anyway. So it didn't, for some reason, I have a feeling our selector is probably not going to work. Let's just give these IDs. So we'll make it ID equals username and ID equals message. So when we submit the form, if username.val is 0 or message.val is 0, and down here we also want to do message. So hopefully that will fix our issue. Maybe not. This might be some sort of issue with P. Likely I'm just missing something with the JavaScript. You're probably sitting there like, oh, you're missing this, and you can probably see the problem, and I'm sure you can fix it. But anyway, as you can see, we have a semi-working chat application, and not too long to do it. So that pretty much wraps up this tutorial. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.